Good morning, beloved ones. Turn to someone and tell them the times they are a-changing. The times they are a-changing. Yes. Now, I know that some of you may be tired of me talking about the times we are living in. And you might actually be saying, all right, enough already. I get it. I get it. Or maybe you're saying, oh no, here we go again. Or there she goes again. But you know, this is what is real for me right now. And this is what is up. And it's up not just for me, but it is up for all of us right now. And I was thinking this morning that I feel a little bit like one of the Old Testament prophets. Now, those Bible people who know what I'm talking about, the Old Testament prophets who are always trying to reach the Israelites, right? And they would always try to tell them what was what and what is up, and to try to help them to get ready for whatever was before them. And they always had something before them, whether it was captivity or wandering around in the desert, whatever. There was always something up for them. And so the prophets of old were sent trying to be a voice crying in the wilderness, trying to tell them and to help them to see this is what's up. And of course, they didn't really listen, right? They didn't listen, but that did not stop the prophets from sharing whatever it was that God had given them to foretell. So even though I might feel like an Old Testament prophet, I know that you hear me. Wink, wink. I know that you hear. It's the people who are not here that don't hear. So I know that you hear. But listen, within the human condition, within the human dimension or the material dimension or the sense world, sometimes we hear, but we don't hear. This is why Jesus used to always say, let those who have what? Ears hear. Now, everybody got ears. But that he was saying, let those who have ears to hear. Sometimes we hear, but we don't hear. We may hear with our ears, but it may not yet have reached our hearts. There's a journey that takes place from here to here. Or we like to say from here to here. It may not yet, that which we have heard may not yet have entered into the heart or moved into our awareness, so that our consciousness has actually shifted and we begin to show up differently. See, hearing to the degree that all of a sudden the consciousness is changed and we begin to show up differently, and our actions begin to be reflective of our hearing, reflective of our knowing, reflective of our doing. We all know it says, you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. But a lot of us know the truth and yet don't feel free, right? Because something's amiss there. Well, I'm thinking that it may take a little time between or before what we hear and what we know manifests into who we are. There may be a little time period because you know the truth. You hear it on Sundays. You read about it. You study. But somehow it may be that it takes a little time between what you know and what you hear actually moves into the beingness of who you are. so that it's showing up as a living example. As Cheryl and I were talking, this prayer we're praying is beginning to do something in us. It's beginning to take shape and cause a shift in our being so that all of a sudden we're responding to life a little differently. Something is happening within us. The doing is actually becoming an important part of our being, right? So we have to, if it's taking time between what we know and what we're actually doing, then we have to simply keep hearing. You've got to keep hearing until the hearing becomes a doing. You understand? We keep hearing until the hearing becomes a doing. Be ye doers of the word and not hearers only. One of my favorite scriptures from James, I want to share this from James 1, verse 22. I love this particular scripture, and I want to read it from, I think I'll start with the New International Version, and I always like to end it with the message because the message is real. It says, this is from James New International Version, do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Because sometimes we think, because I come to church and I hear that I'm doing something. But I still want you to come. Because we have to the point is you keep hearing until the hearing turns into the doing. And as part of the human condition, we hear and we don't hear. So we must continue to hear the word. But then it moves into a transition of actually doing. So this is what this is talking about. So do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in the mirror and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. Now, hasn't that been the truth? You know the truth, you've heard it, and immediately you leave here and you have forgotten it already. I may write a message, and on my drive between home and here, I have forgotten it myself, right? I've been impatient, or I've honked at somebody, or whatever it was. So he says it's like a man who looks in the mirror and forgets what he looks like. But whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, so it has to do with longevity, consistency, who continues in it, not forgetting what they have heard, but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do. And then the familiar, but this is from the New Living Translation. But don't just listen to God's word. You must do what it says. Otherwise, you're only fooling yourselves. For if you listen to the word and don't obey, it's like glancing at your face in a mirror. You see yourself, walk away, and forget what you look like. But if you carefully look into the perfect law that sets you free, if you do what it says and don't forget what you heard, then God will bless you for doing it. And from the Message, don't fool yourself into thinking that you are a listener when you are anything but that. Letting the word go in one ear and out the other. Act on what you hear. Those who hear and don't act are like those who glance in the mirror, walk away, and 2 minutes later have no idea who they are and what they look like. But whoever catches a glimpse of the revealed counsel of God, the free life, even out of the corner of his eye, and sticks with it, is no distracted scatterbrain, but a man or woman of action. That person will find delight and affirmation in the action. I love the Message because it breaks it down, you see. You won't be just a distracted scatterbrain, but a man or woman of action. And you'll find delight in that and delight in the affirmation of the action, meaning that action that you take will affirm your beingness. It's going to show you something. It's going to demonstrate something in your life. And so we have to ask, are we hearers only or doers? And I'm saying we have to continue to hear until something clicks within us and we begin to do. So I don't mind that, we forget sometimes because this is part of the human condition. I still must remember to hear. I must still remember to practice. I must still remember to be awake. You see, because at a moment's notice I can fall asleep. And so we come together, we gather together to hear one another, to support each other, to hear the word. Because at one point in time, it's going to click. There's going to be a shift. Something that you hear is going to catch on in your soul, and all of a sudden you're going to be changed. In the twinkling of an eye, something will have happened that you will be different. But this is a practice, because your life is a spiritual practice. So, I know that I feel compelled then to continue to share what is coming from my heart and my soul, because these are some very powerful times. These are wonderful and challenging and changing times that we are living in. And I will continue to speak to it because it is necessary for us to be aware of what is taking place, right? So because everything is topsy-turvy, is it not? Everything seems to be turned on its head. And some things are even breaking down. Traditions, institutions, long-standing things are no longer like they used to be. Ways of being. I'm just looking even at the political process and how it has changed. It is different. All right? It used to be about the issues, and now it's about how much can I tear the person down. It's changing. And life is like that sometimes. And as things begin to be topsy-turvy, and things that we've held on to, a lot of people are going to fall by the wayside because they're not understanding what is taking place. And so they're mired in this confusion, mired in the limited energy, feeling all caught up in what's taking place. But you won't fall by the wayside because you've been called for such a time as this. You know who you are, even though it's processing, even though we're working, you know who you are. You've been called for such a time as this. You would not be here. Just think about it. You are here at this precious time in history because there's something in your soul that said, yes, I'm going to be here. I'm going to bring the light. I'm going to bring some truth. I'm going to transform my own soul so that I can be a light to others. You are here by divine appointment and divine purpose, and you know it. You know it. And as fearless light bearers, it might be helpful for us to, I'm bringing these things, whether it's the 40-day prayer or some other kind of prayer, I'm bringing these things so that you will know how to maneuver through ambiguity, uncertainty, and the unexpected. Because that's what's showing up right now, is it not? And I want you to be able to know how. So I'm bringing you ideas and thoughts and processes that are going to enable you to maneuver through that. Because nothing is predictable anymore. Nothing is certain anymore. And nor is anything guaranteed. Things are changing at lightning speed. And we will need to have certain skills and mindsets in order to be able to deal with it all. In order to be steady and centered while, inwardly, while things are in flux in the outer. So I've been looking at, what qualities would we need to help us to deal with and maneuver through the ambiguity and uncertainty, the unexpectedness of life? And I thought, one of the first qualities we need to have and acquire is some flexibility. You're going to need some flexibility. Webster says this about flexibility. It is that which is characterized by a ready capability to adapt to new, different, or changing requirements. Flexibility is being characterized by a ready capacity to adapt to new, different, or changing requirements. When I read that, I thought, because life is always demanding, as it always has, that we be willing and able to adapt to the new, right? You have to be willing to adapt to the new, to that which is different, or as Webster put it, to that which says it's to changing requirements. So not only are the requirements for doing life or for living life or experiencing life changing, but change in and of itself is a requirement. So the requirements are changing for doing life, and also change is a requirement. And if you cannot handle, if you cannot maneuver through the requirements of change, you're going to most definitely experience them in a conflict. You will experience struggle, stress, and stuckness. Stuckness, because you can't maneuver through change. And here's the thing, friends. Things are not going to be like they used to be. This whole thing about making something great or going back, things are not going to be like they used to be. And hankering for the good old days. Everybody thinks the good old days. You notice how whenever you look back, it was the good old days. And while you were in those good old days, you were like, woo, right? Looking for something else. Hankering for the good old days actually is a waste of time, because a new day is dawning. See, it's a waste of time because we can either awaken to the new day that's dawning, awaken to it, or we can remain stuck in the times that no longer exist. And here's the key. If you are stuck in times that no longer exist, that means you are stuck in a life that has no life. You get that? If you're stuck back there in times that no longer exist, you are stuck in a life that has no life, because life cannot be lived in the past. No matter how much you try, you can't live it in the past. So that means we have to be willing to move with the times. I always coming up, I have a wonderful conversation with my mother as we're driving. We were talking about something, and I was trying to say, well, times are different. You can wear what you want to wear when you want to wear it, and there's no, after Labor Day, you can't wear white. People wear white whenever they want to wear white. But at a point in time, that was the social mores of the day. I remember when women couldn't show their ankles because that was not acceptable. Now they're showing too much as far as I'm concerned. I'm like, whoa. But it's changed, even though I might not go that far, but it's all changed. And so we've got to be willing to adapt to it, because the requirements of change demand that we be present to it, that we move with flexibility, adaptability. We're going to have to adopt the habit of being adaptable. You see, it's got to be a habit of being open and receptive. So I want you to begin to notice where you are resistant to change. I don't care if it's new food came out. I was used to my ginger ale coming in a green can, my little mini. Now they got a white can, and I'm like, woo, they changed it from green to white. I wonder if it's different. Why'd they do that? See? You got to be willing. And so how resistant are you to change? I want you to start looking at your life, because these are the places that are where you're stuck. So you need to be aware. All right? So even Spirit is showing me that I must be willing to even change the way church is done. I've been trained in a certain way, because millennials want to do a church differently. They want to experience worship and spirituality in a completely different format that does not necessarily involve being in the midst of these four walls. And I'm like, what? And yet I know that if we want to continue to thrive and grow and unfold as a church community, we're here, yes, but we cannot continue to think just about ourselves. What about those coming after us? And if those coming after us can't get with what is taking place in here, how will we reach them? Because they are still hungering for truth. They are still hungering for spirituality. But we have to find a way to give it to them in a way that they are open to receive it, which means I might have to be willing to do it differently, which means you and we might have to be willing to do it differently. And so I'm praying about all of this. It means that we might have to be flexible. I'm making changes in the service. And people, oh, what? You didn't do that? No, I didn't. Because I'm trying some things out. Even with my own self. You see? I'm trying some things with my own self because I'm hearing this call for radical change to be present. And so I said I might as well choose this call to change, to see it as exciting as opposed to something I need to be afraid of. I'm going to see it as exciting and refreshing and different, cutting edge, growing. I'm learning how to work the Facebook and the Twitter and all that stuff. I'm learning how to put Unity out there in a different mode because I have to, right? Whereas I used to be afraid of it all and oh no, and now it's like, you better jump in here. Because this is a sign of the times. This is where we are. And so as we work with flexibility, in order for all of that to take place, to be open and receptive and excited and refreshing, we're going to have to also adopt another quality. And I say that it's the quality of being surrendered. So first we got to be flexible. Be willing to change, and then we must learn to be surrendered. Now, I know the word surrender at first glance is not a word that we may not want to adopt readily. We don't want to adopt it readily because of the misunderstanding of its meaning, or maybe the way most people portray the meaning of the word surrender as a state of weakness, or as a feeling of giving up or resignation or defeat. I surrender, I'm defeated, I'm resigned to life. That has nothing to do with the spiritual power of surrender. Because true surrender as a spiritual state of consciousness is about being open. Not being weak, not being defeated, but true surrender is about being open to a higher state of consciousness, open to God, open to our spiritual power that is greater than oneself, open to the things of spirit, and to be a willingness. See, surrender means you have a willingness to do so because you know that as you are open to God, as you are open to the Spirit, as you are open to that which is greater and higher, greater is He that is within you than he that's in the world. When you open to this greater within you, you know that it's going to lead you to greatness. It's going to lead you to something higher and greater than you could ever have achieved on your own. So to be surrendered to that is a good thing. It's a good thing. It's not a position, but a state of being. It's not a position I give up, but a state of being, right? And so to get there, to this surrendered, open, trust state, we get to have another mindset. We need another quality. It's going to require that we be in the mindset or being in a state of trusting. So you got to be flexible, you got to be surrendered, and in order to surrender, you got to have a state of trusting, right? You got to be in a state of trusting. You have to trust that God or the divine is moving you to a higher state of being, to a better experience of your life or an expression of your life, or to something that's good for your soul's development. You've got to trust sometimes. And so I ask, do you really, really trust that God is working through you, through your life and affairs? Do you really trust that what you may be going through right now, whatever it is that you may be experiencing right now, is actually for your highest good? Now, sometimes we look, well, this can't be for my highest good. I know that what I'm going through ain't good, and it can't possibly be for my highest good. See, this is where we have to begin to understand. We cannot judge. Jesus said, judge ye not by appearances, but by righteous judgment. You can't look at your life out here and say, oh, this is not good. We have to trust that everything that comes to us for a divine purpose. It comes to us for a blessing and a lesson. It comes for us for our soul's unfoldment, even though it might not look good, feel good, sound good, smell good, taste good. That's okay. It still may be good for your soul's growth and unfoldment. And we've got to trust that everything is in process for us. And if we don't resist whatever is, see, it doesn't mean that you have to lay down, but you're not going to fight in resistance. You want to see, well, what is in this for me to learn, to grow, to understand? If you don't resist and pause, this is not good, I want to push it away, whatever, and it just comes through the back door and around that way. So if you cannot resist it, you will actually be able to understand that it is leading you to transformation and growth. At some point, we've got to trust. You've got to trust the process. Whatever has happened, guess what? We are in process right now. You're in process. Turn to somebody and say, trust the process. Trust the process. Because God is in charge. Don't get hung up on how it looks. Understand that you're in process. You're never forsaken, never alone. The presence and power of God is at work all the time in your life and affairs. So we trust the process. Now, in order to truly trust the process, you're going to have to get comfortable with not knowing. Not knowing the details, not knowing the how, because be certain something comes up. Well, how is that? The how may not be any of your business, right? So we've got to be able to trust that you are comfortable with not knowing how things are going to unfold, even not knowing the exact outcome. Because some of us don't want to take a step and make a move until we know that the outcome is going to be guaranteed. You have to be willing to give even up that. And in trusting the process, somewhere in the back, you must trust that God is working it out. Therefore, it's going to lead to something good for your life and your soul's unfoldment. But you might have to give up your need to know the exact outcome, all right? And this may be a bit challenging because for the most part, we are nosy beings. We want to know before it even manifests. When I was writing this, I was thinking of a Harrison Ford movie where he was doing something and this lady was they were trying to get this little mask that contained wisdom, and it had, it was a head, and it had all knowledge. And anyway, when they were able to put this head back where it belonged to this outer space being, this woman said to the being, I want to know everything. And she was kind of negative and evil, so the being said, you want to know? And it began to fill her little head with all the wisdom. And guess what? Her whole head exploded. Because she wasn't ready to know that much. See, we get it as God works on a need-to-know basis. As you grow and unfold, you know what you need to know when you need to know it, and not a moment before. Even Jesus said, look, I have meat you know not of. And he said, what I write could fill volumes, but I can't tell it to you now because you're not ready. So we are in process, right? You will know whatever it is you need to know when you need to know it. God's got this. And it's an on-time God that is aware. God, as we say all the time, omniscient, right? All-knowing. So you don't have to worry about it. Everything that is known about you is already known. You need to just work with the process. You need to work with the process and to begin to trust. Because here's the thing. Sometimes you don't know until you have hindsight, right? Sometimes you don't get the knowing until it's already happened and you look back and go, oh, that's why so-and-so happened, see? Because that knowing was really an unfolding. You're in the process sometimes of unfolding, so the knowing might not be present. So you're unfolding, and it's an unfolding bit by bit, moment by moment, experience by experience, until such time as, oh, now I know. Your part is to learn to trust in God, to trust in the process of your life unfolding just as it needs to for your highest good. Even a situation you might want to deem negative, bad, tragic, there is a purpose for it being in your life. And you will unfold that as you go through life and you grow through life. You have to learn that sometimes your highest good is your highest growth, and it will come in time. Your task is to have faith, to trust in the process. The scripture says we walk by what? We walk by faith and not by what? Sight. You ain't going to see everything. You're not going to know everything. But you will see everything and know everything at the divinely right time. We walk by faith and not by sight. So part of this as a light bearer is to practice your faith walking. You're going to have to walk through some things. Notice it says we walk by faith, which means there's an action, there's a movement. We're going to walk by faith and not by sight. So in order for us to walk by faith, to act by faith, to do by faith, another quality that we may need is the quality of being in a state of readiness. You got to be ready. Ready, 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 because things are indeed changing at a rapid pace. And you have to be ready at a moment's notice. Ready to move, ready to grow, ready to encounter new things and different experiences. You've got to be ready. Jesus said, watch and pray. And pray that you will be ready, because you know not the hour, nor the time, nor the day when the master will come. And he was talking about a parable. He said, the master came and he put his servants in charge of his household. And he went away. And Jesus said, And he came back, but the servants weren't doing what they were supposed to do. He says, you don't know what time, day, or hour the master's going to come back. God has placed you in charge of the household of your consciousness. And you don't know the moment, the day, the hour when when your good is coming. You don't know when your healing is coming. You don't know when your prosperity is going to show up. You don't know when your blessing is going to be given to you. You don't know, so you need to be ready moment by moment. Consciousness by consciousness, because any moment could be the moment. Any moment could be the moment your good shows up. Any moment could be the moment your dream comes true, and you need to be ready for it. Sometimes we pray, and then we're not ready, and here it is, and we're like, what, wait a minute, wait. I didn't mean it like that. I don't have time. Let me go back and do it. No, you can't. There's no going back. You need to be ready in the moment. So we keep our consciousness high. We keep ourselves prayed up so that we can be ready to move through with the power of Spirit, leading the way, with the power of Spirit guiding us. We're watching and we're praying and we're moving our feet, right? We're watching, we're praying, and we're moving our feet. We're taking action. We're being ready for the expected and the unexpected. I expect miracles, but then other things come as well. You got to be ready for both. And so when you are dealing with life, we need to be ready for expected and the unexpected. And then we have to hold this last quality that I'm going to share today, because there are many more. But when we are working with a state of readiness, ready for the expected and the unexpected, we also need the quality of being able to embrace paradox and ambiguity. Because things are neither black nor white. We're living in gray matter times, right? Gray matter, where potentiality is neither here nor there, neither right nor wrong. It's in between, and we've got to be able to deal with paradox. We have to be able to deal with things being this and that. It's never either or. We've been trained it's either this or that. No. It has to be both and you have to have a consciousness that says, I'm living in the both and. Because the either or consciousness is one of limitation, see? It's either this or it's that, and you get limited. you exclude so many other things. Both and lets you have an unlimited perspective. We have to expand our perspective on life so that it includes all of God, both and. So this is a wonderful opportunity for us to learn how to be secure in uncertain times, secure in times of ambiguity and paradox. We've got to be open to be able to handle all of it. And when we can condition ourselves to respond that way, then we will be in the flow of life, because life is unpredictable, right? And so we want to be able to just flow with it, just ride, just go. Ride the waves, get into the rhythm of life, into the rhythm of God, knowing that God is leading the way, leading the way, leading the way. We're trusting the process. So I'm going to encourage you as a fearless light bearer to not only do the action steps we're talking about, but to do these things that we're talking about that's shifting your consciousness. And so you're going to work on flexibility, being surrendered, learning how to trust, being ready, and being open to life. And if you do, you will go with the flow and flow with the go. That's the way it works, my friends. Are you ready? Yes. See, I spent, 25, 30 minutes. Are you ready? Yes. Oh, now doesn't that feel better? It's a higher vibration. Namaste. Namaste and blessings, blessings, blessings. Blessings.